I'm Weston. I love talking about the Rangers, and I'm here to kind of recap yesterday's game for the Rangers versus the Washington Capitals, Game 34 of the regular season. The Rangers lost 5-4. Now, again, I wasn't able to watch that. If you saw my Saturday video, you would know that I wasn't available for that yesterday. I had something else going on. So, I'm not going to be talking about player performances because I couldn't watch the game. I'm only going to be talking about the highlights and what I saw. So, basically, only the goals are going to be covered in this. So, nothing happens in the first period. Second period starts. Vrana gets a breakaway and gets this kind of weak shot off on Kincaid. And then Tom Wilson comes in and slams it home for the 1-0 Capitals lead early in the second. I believe it was early in the second. Then a little bit later on, Ovechkin takes a shot kind of from the right side near the boards to Kincaid, and it bounces off of Fox and then Lindgren and then in. In fact, I think it hit all three of them, Fox, Lindgren, and I think it touched Kincaid before going into the net, which is kind of funny. He was playing frickin' pinball. A little bit later on, Tyler Oshie takes it into the zone. He gives it to Nathan Backstrom, or is it Nathan Backstrom? Backstrom, I know. He takes a shot. It goes up in the air, and then Tom Wilson again knocks it in for a 3-0 Capitals lead. That's it for the second period. On to the third. Hagelin gets it to Kuznetsov in front. He feeds it from behind the net. It's 4-0. And I got those notifications, right? I'm not home. I'm getting these notifications. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not missing anything, close. Then, in a little bit after that in the third, Fox gives it to Blackwell. Blackwell starts to carry it towards the net. He goes past the net, brings the puck back around in front, and just shoves it in for a 4-1 lead. That was a super nice goal. I watched all the goals a few times to make sure I could talk about them good. That was a super nice goal by Colin Blackwell. Then, a little bit later on, Philip DiGiuseppe passes it over to Kevin Rooney, who puts a gorgeous pass over to Colin Blackwell in front in the blue paint, tips it in, 4-2. Colin's second of the day on his birthday. So happy birthday, Colin Blackwell. Very surprising rookie who has shocked me this season. Then, just a little bit after that, Tyler Oshie tips a shot in. It's 5-2. That's fun. Then, a little bit later on, this goal made me kind of sad that I didn't get to see live. Kevin Rooney gives it over to Julien Gauthier. Gauthier takes a big shot on goal. Huge rebound, completely uncontained by the Washington goaltender. Lafreniere comes flying in, just chips it in. Reminded me a lot of his first goal, except his first goal was a pass, not a rebound. He buries it in there, 5-3, and then a little bit after that on a power play with about 4 minutes left, the Rangers have a power play. Fox and Strome are passing it back and forth. It goes Fox to Strome, Strome to Fox, Fox back to Strome. Strome puts this, it was meant to look like a shot on goal, which it looked like, but it was just a pass over to Chris Kreider, tips it in, 5-4, and that was it. And that was it for the game. Sadly, on our empty net, we were not able to tie it or anything, so we lose. A seemingly interesting game that I was not able to watch. I might watch a condensed game later to see, a lot more, because it certainly seemed like a very exciting game, certainly in the third period. Now, what I can talk about is ice time, right? I can't talk about players who played well, because outside of the ones that clearly show up on the stat sheet, I don't know. Fox obviously had a good game. He had 2 assists. He is just, my God, Fox is such a good player. I love Adam Fox. Lafreniere had a goal, which was nice. Colin Blackwell had 2, which leads me to believe he had a pretty good game. I believe Kevin Rooney had 2, which again leads me to believe he had a pretty nice day. And that's about all I can really say. But again, ice time. So let's say, you have 2 players who account for 3 of your 4 goals in Colin Blackwell and Alexis Lafreniere. You'd want to give them over 10 minutes of ice time, wouldn't you say? Well, he did not. Mr. Quinn gave Colin Blackwell 9:28 and Alexis Lafreniere 8:13. The only reason that some Rangers fans were like, well, you know what? I know that we're 4-2 with Chris Knobloch. I understand that. We had a 9-0 win and an 8-3 win. But you know what? Let's bring Quinn, when he's healthy, get him back in there, because, Knobloch hasn't been developing the rookies that well. Which I was thinking to myself, oh yes, because David Quinn was doing so well developing them. But they were complaining about ice time, and I agreed with it. I'm like, you know what, that is a very, very valid complaint. Knobloch was heavily leaning on the first 2 lines. He was heavily leaning on Kreider, Buchnevich, and Mika Zibanejad, and heavily leaning on the second line, which was always Panarin and Strome, and then maybe Lafreniere for a shift, but mostly it was Blackwell, and then mostly Capo Caco. And I agreed. I'm like, you know what? That's fair. That's fair. He isn't giving, the rookies, the fourth and third line, any ice time. Then it turns out that Quinn doesn't do the same. He does the same thing. He isn't giving him any ice time either. Lafreniere, 8-13. Are you kidding me? Now, I'm not saying that you need to give Alexi Lafreniere or Colin Blackwell or anyone on the third or fourth line, 20-minute games. I'm not saying that that's insane. And I'm not saying that you need to move them up, right? Because I love Alexi Lafreniere. I think he's going to be a great player for the Rangers. I think Colin Blackwell could be a pretty darn good player for the Rangers down the line. Maybe not a top 2 line, maybe not a top 6 forward, but I think he could really help anchor the third line down the road. But Alexi Lafreniere is probably going to be one of those top line players in a few years. Hopefully next year he'll take that step, and be like Kakko. Not that Kakko's having a great season this year, but I think he's played a lot better. Granted the points aren't coming, but that's beside the point. This isn't how you develop them. Right? I'm not saying Lafreniere needs to get 20-minute games. That's idiotic. And point blank, as much as I like him, he hasn't earned that yet. He hasn't earned being out there for 20 minutes. But 8 minutes and 13 seconds? Really? That's it? That's all you're going to put him out there for? This is a number 1 pick. Just a couple of months ago, back in October. First overall pick. Can't crack 8.5 minutes of ice time. And it's not like he's been terrible. He's not scoring a lot, but no one's really scoring on this team. Outside of the top 2 lines in the first, 25 games, take the past 7 aside, with Knobloch being the coach, with the insane explosion we've had offensively. Take those out. First 26, 27 games, who was scoring? No one was. Minka looked like a shell of himself. He seems to be back. Panarin was gone for most of those. Our top players were probably Buchnevich and Kreider. Like, no one was scoring. So, yeah, then he didn't. And I don't get what you're going for. And he keeps saying, whenever he's questioned about it, like, oh, I didn't realize I didn't play him that much. I'll want to make sure I play him more next game. But we're thinking about developing for the long run. But how does long run development equal giving a first overall pick, uber talented player, 8-13 of ice time? Like, that's insane. I'm curious to who had more ice time, because, again, that's mind-boggling to me, that you have, is that a freaking career low for Lafreniere? It might be. Like, before I do that, I want to see how much he had in the Philadelphia 2-1 loss. Ice time for Lafreniere. I'm going to check this. He had 11. He had 11 against Philadelphia, and I'm really going to go back. I'm going to go back a game before that, and this is all in the 8-3 game. How much ice time did he have? 13. Yeah. See, even when we were complaining about that, he was still getting way more. But who had more ice time? Pretty much everyone, I'm sure. Gauthier had less. All right. So Gauthier had less. Philip DiGiuseppe had less. Ironically, both of them had assists. And that is it. Hedl had more. Again, I think Hedl should have more. But Hayek had 12 minutes. And I understand he's a defenseman. I get that. But that's insane, right? And I will say, like, I can't say that we looked worse. But it's just insane. 8 minutes of ice time for Alexi Lafreniere. So that is it. We play Washington Tuesday at 7, and that one is back in Madison Square Garden, which is going to be awesome. And yeah, that's all I have to say for this video. Thank you all so very much for watching and being understanding that I couldn't post this yesterday. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day, and go Rangers.